All right, everybody. We got another episode. Welcome to the Culture Podcast. It's your host, Holly Brady. This week, I have a special guest. Her name is Racquel Battle. She's doing it big out here, man. She got a dispatcher company, which is kind of different because I don't really see too many women in this industry. So I'm very interested to see everything she has going on and kind of talk to her a little bit about this. So Racquel, can you just kind of give a little bit about your background and just how you even got to where you are today?
Literally started my dispatch company going on 3 years. It will be 3 years come February. And I got laid off. I was in corporate America call center customer service going on 14 years before that point. So at the time, I had got laid off twice within a year period from literally $85,000 jobs or more. And I felt like, the money was not the thing, right? Like at that time, I was trying to figure out what my next path was going to be to be able to provide for my kids without someone saying, oh, we don't need you anymore, or our budget does not fit your expertise per se. So once I did that, I was able to get into, okay, well, what's going to last? What's going to sustain the test of time between everything, whether it's a disaster or, pandemic as we're going through right now, what's going to last? So it was in between medical and transportation. Both of those industries always will suffice for everything. People need health care every day. People need transportation or thereof to get your products, your services, your clothes, your food, everything to you on a daily basis. So I knew both of those industries were long lasting. I was going to be able to produce what I needed to do on my own and be able to withstand that. So once I figured out what type of industry I wanted to go into, dispatching was just my way into transportation. With dispatching, you can learn like from ground up to be able to say, okay, this is how you run it. These are the type of trucks you're going to run, type of lanes you're going to run. So I personally am just a motivated, driven person. So once I got or get the knowledge of something, then I go full force into everything. So once I figured out that's what I wanted to do, I hopped on YouTube and learned as much as humanly possible. I had a couple mentors that literally gave me advice. So I would reach out to someone, I would have a meeting, and then literally just get different advice from different people to see what avenue of dispatching I wanted to go into. So I started out with box trucks and hot shots, which are the smaller versions of what I do now, which are LTL or lighter freight, I would say. So less than truckload is what we call it, or what the abbreviation is for. But everything that can't go onto or does not fit into a 18 wheeler, then literally those type of things go into the LTL freight or hot shots. So now I built my dispatch company up about 8 months, and then I was able to purchase my own trucks. And now I'm doing consulting as well as, like I said, the webinar or dispatch training now to be able to just give back and help others to get into the business like I did.
Oh wow, that's great. I mean, I like how you kind of mentioned you hit on a lot of stuff there, like from laid off. Like most people, I run across a lot of people they don't really get that. I haven't run into people that got laid off, maybe like one or two. And it's kind of just a testament because a lot of people don't necessarily they don't take any type of initiative. They might let that discourage them for a minute, and that's just a big testament for you because especially the fact that you were okay with a lot of people they're afraid to like go on YouTube and stuff. And then people ask me like, how do I do the stuff I do? I'm just like, I don't know. I
Right.
just
It's YouTube University, like all
Hey,
day long.
oh yeah, I tell people Google, YouTube. I got my degrees from there too. Like I got my
Yes.
school degrees, but you can't be afraid to just go out there and just go down that rabbit hole because it's just start
hmm
searching. So, how old were you when you got started doing this?
Literally, I'm 34 now. So I was 31 years old when I started like just getting into the business. I think that all through, I guess, my 20s were basically living someone else's dream, right? So I had my
Mm,
oldest child when I was 25 years old. And at the time, before I got pregnant with her, I was doing sports broadcasting. So that's what I literally just went to a certificate program and did their program for, I believe it was a 6 week program with them every day for 6 weeks, doing what I love to do. Mind you, I had internships with all of the radio stations here and things of that nature. So that was my passion in hosting and broadcasting. But once I figured out, that I was pregnant, I had already started my own show. I had interviewed the likes of them from Heinz Ward on down, right? And was building that brand to be able to do what I wanted to do at the time, or thought I wanted to do at the time. So I ended up getting pregnant with my oldest, and then I had to go back to corporate. It was just like, okay, this is not making me enough money. And back then, it wasn't a like type of influencer world like it is now to be able to get sponsorships and run our social media off of someone else's business to be able to advertise with us, right? So back then you really had to do the manual work, and being pregnant I wasn't able to do so. So my mind went back to, okay, well, go back into call center, customer service, etc. So then at that point I just wanted something else, something bigger for my family, let alone. So I went back into corporate, but then, like I said, years later, years down the line, like literally, I had my show 2009, 2010. So 10
Oh,
years later, I was able to get back into what I do, right? So when was that? Was this 2021? So 1918. 2018 was when I put the whole idea together. Like, look, this is not me anymore. I got laid off July 2018. So since that point, I have not worked for anyone else except for myself and obviously my clients. But it's a blessing to be able to go with your passion, right? And for the last 3 years, I have been able to sustain this on a comfortable level. So don't think, it's easy. Don't think you're going to just up and get rich off of this, right? There's a lot that goes into it, but I am able to maintain my lifestyle because I don't live above my means. I know what my budget is, I know what my bills are, things like that, right? So you got to be able to, as an entrepreneur, know what your personal bills are, but also what's going to sustain your business so that you don't have to go into back into the 9 to 5 situation.
that's a. I like the way you broke all that down because a lot of people don't really take
Hmm.
into account about that. They think that this is just like they see that success, but they don't understand the delayed gratification that came with it. And it's
Right.
just like it's great for you though because you like people would probably look at like, oh, my 20s. If I'm not really making it happen right now, it's over. And for you, you
No,
saying at
it's never that.
31,
Like,
exactly. And you saying
yes,
like at
yes.
31, like you got it up and popping and you just took
Hmm.
initiative. Like it wasn't even about nobody having to hold your hand, nothing, or I got you just
Mm-mm.
went out and did it. Like you took that action. And that's
Right.
what a lot of times a lot of people don't understand. It's just about taking that first step. Because when you take that first step, it almost becomes like a domino effect. You just got to be willing to put
Hmm.
that work in, and that's what you did. So we just gonna pivot into just break it down. Can you just like break down for everybody like what is a dispatcher? Because a lot of people they hear
Hmm.
about like trucking and stuff like that, but nobody ever hears about like you don't really hear about the dispatching side of it. More people just hear about like everybody got the 18 wheelers, they putting them on the road, stuff like that.
Right. Exactly. For those that don't know, 18 wheelers have to have a load. A load is basically where they go and get the freight and where they're going to drop that freight off, right? So, just like you said, our position as dispatchers is always behind the scene. If it wasn't for people like me bringing it to the forefront, you would never know who was getting the loads, how they get there, how everything runs, right? So most of the time, an owner, which is someone who actually invests in a truck and then puts a driver in there, or owner operator will hire someone such as myself, right? A dispatcher is a person that's going to, number one, make your life as an owner or owner operator a little bit easier, because most of the time I want my driver to just drive. Like all he needs to do is get that freight, take it from point A to point B, let me know when he gets there and keep it moving, right? That driver and even owner at that point should not have to deal with paperwork. He should not be fumbling with his phone while he's on the road. That's a safety factor, right? But also to be able to talk to these brokers and explain to them that, okay, well, it's going to be late, right? Or we're running a little bit late. The stress factor that happens over the road with these drivers, because they're having to answer their phones and answer to people that are sometimes belligerent about these loads. They should not have to deal with that on a mental level, let alone a safety perspective, in moving this truck, right? So we provide as dispatchers a convenience factor, a stress-free way of moving your truck appropriately, but also just in general, like we are a luxury to make sure that things get handled on a daily basis. If you are a good dispatcher, literally, you will be able to run that truck as if that owner did not know or had no clue what was going on until Friday when you send them that settlement that states your truck did XYZ, unless there's a maintenance issue, right? But good dispatchers are ones who, number one, seeks out owner operators that need the assistance, right? That need assistance to be able to run their business appropriately. That in turn allows us as dispatchers to make those relationships. And what we do is basically either go directly to a broker, and then, or we go to manufacturers or shippers on the behalf of that owner operator. No dispatcher can go to a manufacturer or shipper, and be able to get loads unless they have an MC that they are attached to. So basically, if I'm doing business with, let's just say Joe Blow Trucking or whatever the case may be, then I'm utilizing his MC or authority to move that load. That
Okay.
MC or authority, that trucking company is the one who is liable. They're the one with the insurance. They're the one who owns the truck. They're the one who is responsible for the maintenance thereof, as well as paying their driver, right? So we as dispatchers are kind of sort of an assistant, right? And that's where the executive assistant to the trucking CEO, and that's where that lingo comes from, or what I use basically for everyone, and what I've grown to be known by. I am the executive assistant, and when you think of executive assistant in the corporate range, it's someone who's going to run your company, even if you go on break, even if you go on vacation. That person should be able to know how to run that company on a daily basis, right? So, as a dispatcher, we are that person. We are those people that are going to be able to, number one, run your company, but also bring in the revenue, just as if it was you doing the same thing that we're doing on a daily basis. We're just making it a little bit more convenient, a little bit more safe, for your driver not to have to answer those calls in the middle of the night, because most of the time he's sleeping, and then a broker calls and says, "Hey, where you at? What's your ETA?" And I'm like, no, like the driver should not have to deal with those issues, whether he's the owner of the company or not, right? Because I even have clients that come to me that are owners of the trucks, but they also drive the trucks, right? They're the people who literally came out of either a corporate setting driving for someone else, and they said, "Look, I want to get my own. I want to have all profits. It is what it is." But those people definitely don't need those headaches, because they want you as a dispatcher to run their trucks appropriately where they don't have to do so. So dispatchers on a lower level is just one who, number one, is able to get those loads from point A to point B and satisfy the revenue that particular owner or owner operator is needing by the end of the week.
Okay, well, I'm glad you wrote that down, because a lot of times I used to think I was under the impression that it's just kind of like they can handle everything that they want to do on their own, whether it's like going to get the load, stuff like that. I didn't really know it was I guess you almost serve as the middleman or liaison
Right.
for. Okay,
That
okay,
is correct. That is
okay.
correct. And most dispatchers, the problems that we are running into as dispatchers is that some of them don't go by the rules or moral rules of the code, right? So
Mm.
because you're a dispatcher, you're supposed to be on the behalf. You're doing business on the behalf of that owner or authority, owner, right? So that trucking company, you are a independent contractor of said trucking company. However, most dispatchers try to act as if they are brokers. So they'll try to go get freight from shippers and manufacturers. However, that's the broker's job, because the broker has a surety bond to cover that freight if anything happens to it. We as dispatchers do not. And unfortunately, because there has been a lot of what do you call it, cutting corners, I would say,
Mm.
within the industry, from certain dispatchers. Not saying that a lot of them do that. I'm saying that because there has been a continued issue with that, then I have heard that things are coming down the pipeline so that dispatchers are going to have a license or some type of bond covering them as well now. So obviously, it's not into law right now. We don't necessarily have to do that right this second. But for dispatchers coming into the business, just beware that things may or may not change moving forward.
Okay. So you were mentioning, okay, so you have the broker, you have the dispatcher, then you have the actual operator of the truck, correct?
Right. That is correct.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So, and then basically
Hmm.
the broker handles, I guess, so the broker will handle, I guess, where you're picking it. Like you handle the, I guess, the link between the two,
Right.
essentially.
And the broker is the person who actually goes to the shipper manufacturer and gets the contracts, right? But
Okay.
that's what I was saying. If you are a good dispatcher and you have that relationship with your owner, you are able to in turn go to a shipper or manufacturer and utilize that MC that you are contracted to gain contracts for that particular MC or authority, right? So if
Okay.
you are not doing business on behalf of that authority, then you can't just automatically just go to the shipper or manufacturer. You can grant you do so. However, it is frowned upon, number one, because you don't have anything to cover that freight.
Okay. I get what you're saying. Okay. So it's
Hmm.
basically just, okay, just basically just a liability type deal.
Right, that is correct. And that's where things are coming down the pipeline with laws and regulations and things like that. What I've been hearing is obviously it's not into law right now. No one signed anything on the dotted line, but that's what they're looking into because there have been certain
Okay.
issues where where dispatchers move a truck or tell a driver to do said X, Y, and Z load, or tell them to go around their hours of service, which are basically the hours that a driver can be on the road in between time, so that it's a safe haven for them, right? So literally, a driver can only be, and now it's 12 hours because they moved it up for COVID. But it used to be 11 hours. So now that they can do 12 hours on the road or driving time, but after 8 hours, they still have to take a break. But meanwhile, there are dispatchers that will push the limit of that. And in turn, it has been issues where a dispatcher will tell a owner or driver to continue to get to that load. And then something may happen or dangerous, or he may have hit something or fell asleep at the wheel or whatever the case may be. And they don't know who to blame. So it's coming down on the dispatcher who told him to go outside of those hours of service,
Okay.
right? To get that load to wherever it's supposed to be. So I just want to make sure that the dispatchers know, like, we're out there because obviously we want to make money, but if it's not safe for that driver to be out there, weather concerns, hours of service concerns, just the driver's mental at the end of the day, then that is not worth that's not worth the money behind it.
Okay. I mean,
Mhm.
it's relatively pretty good money from the people I know that do trucking. Like one of my cousins just started
Mhm.
up his own trucking thing, so I can definitely like. I
Right.
mean, I guess there's no point in pushing that realm of, especially putting somebody's life in danger and stuff like that. So I definitely understand where you're coming
Mhm.
from with that. So I guess one of the
Yes,
benefits,
exactly.
I guess one of the benefits that you do have as a dispatcher, I would assume that you work from home, or I guess you have like a home office or wherever you would conduct your business, correct?
Yes, that is correct. So I started my
Mhm.
my business literally in my home office. I set up a computer. I found a monitor online on Facebook Marketplace so that I can actually have something to look at. Me being in call center customer service, I
Mhm.
know for a fact I can't just work off my laptop screen. I got to be able to see everything, and that's why I recommend that all dispatchers do the same thing. Like find a little $10, $20 monitor, hook it up to your computer, so that you're able to see everything at one time because you're multitasking. You're doing multiple things at one time. But yeah, so I started that there. I was working off of my cell phone. I had no business line at the time, and just went for it. Like literally jumped off of faith, and said, "Look, this is what I want to do. I'm going to push it till I can't push it no more." And thank God it worked out. And I'm here today to definitely teach others to do the same, but the mistakes that I have made along the way give me more knowledge to give to those that are coming into the game now, so that they don't in turn make those same mistakes.
You bossed up and now you giving back. Hey,
Yes,
that's how it's supposed
exactly.
to be though.
Yes, we
Uh,
gave away literally for just my course in general because I do business with all my colleagues as well that have different courses, but just my course in general, we gave away 8 courses over the holiday during like our lives and things like that. So I'm definitely one to give back. I know everyone doesn't have the funds to do so most of the time. But what I do tell those is that your investment into your future is paramount when it comes to what you want to do. And if you can't sacrifice that, when you sacrifice different things such as nails and lashes and
yeah.
hair and all these different type of things, even with guys with shoes and
Oh
watches
yeah.
and clothes and everything that you waste money on a daily basis, that could be going towards your education. And that's why I don't necessarily have sympathy for people that say they don't have the funds, right? Like I didn't have anything. I literally had 2 kids and I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? But I knew that the motivation behind what I needed, my drive was going to push me to make sure that I had the funds available to, at minimum, start your business.
Oh shit. That's dope. But
Hmm.
because I do have a lot of women that tune in. Is like, are you like a single? You're a single mom, correct?
Yes, yes, I
So
am.
I
I have
just,
been done so for the last 4 years of my life. So yes, my
hey,
oldest is 9. So prior to her, I mean, prior to my youngest, obviously, I've been single as well. But my youngest is 4, and I have literally been on my grind since she was born, even harder than anything. But yes, I definitely have to balance the 2.
I just mentioned that because I do know a lot of moms out there. You know, they got kids
Hmm.
stuff. You know, a lot of people. I always say it's crazy. Like I always say, like women, especially like black women, man, y'all really be on y'all
Hmm.
stuff. And I don't want to curse them, but y'all be
Yes.
on it, and y'all
There's no
grind.
excuses. There's no
Hey,
excuses. As of right now, like they're literally sitting in the car eating because I let them know like look, mommy has, things to do, right? Because they understand like what my trucking business means to our family. And I think more so than anything, a woman who is able to show her girls or kids, let alone that you can also have the life you want and not sacrifice who you are as a person, right? Like I had got away from that for years, like not doing me and not looking out for me. But with my business, I'm able to give back. I'm able to show other mothers, let alone single mothers who are out here like, oh no, I need XYZ for me to move, or I need a man, or whatever the case may be. No, I want a man, obviously. But I don't need one to move my life appropriately and show my girls that at the end of the day, mommy can do it too.
hey, that's a fact, man. That is big
Mhm.
because a lot of people think that just because they have like a child, or something, they might be put in a certain situation that they can't go out and
Mhm.
make a way. That's why I
Right.
like talking to people like you because it's like, nah, that ain't the case at all. It's just kind of you have to adjust accordingly and pivot.
Mhm.
Like you said, like you started off and doing like radio business and you pivoted into customer service. Then that didn't work out, so boom, you pivot on this, open up your own
Mhm.
stuff. You master your
Yes.
craft. You master your craft just off the strength of hustle and just getting it.
Mhm.
And that's
Yep.
really what I respect the most about it, like your whole journey, because a lot of people,
Mhm.
they're real afraid, they get in those situations, and you just said forget it and went in and just start grinding. But I'm gonna go ahead
Yep,
and pivot.
exactly. Yep, definitely. It's something that you got to have the mindset for, right? There's a lot of things, and this year, I will be able to definitely share my testimony, right? Because at the end of the day, I've been through a lot that people don't even know. But when I tell you, like God is real, and the strength behind what I do is like sometimes it's a miracle what I do. Like I see myself doing these type of things, and I tell everyone that if you put your mind to something, number one, you have to write your goals down. Just because at the end of the day, if you don't write it down, it's just in your head, it's in space. So if you don't see it, then you cannot execute on what it is that you want to do. Literally, when I said I wanted to do my company, 30 days, I had 30 days later, I had my LLC, and I was literally like marketing out to the masses, right? But then even with my show, September 29th, I literally sat down and said I wanted to do my show with a producer here in Atlanta. And then a month later, that's what I did. I started
Hey,
my first episode. Then even with the webinar, right? Like obviously I have all this knowledge, like why not give back? Literally 30 days to the day, I was, launching my webinar from when I literally wrote it on paper. And I do that because not only, excuse me, do I want to show people my journey, but I want to see like, am I going to do this within a certain period of time? So I literally like challenge myself to do things within a timely manner, but not to procrastinate, right?
I mean, that's good though, because now you're giving yourself you have that goal, but a lot of times people have
Deadline.
those goals, but
Mhm.
they don't have no deadline to it. So once you put that
Mhm.
deadline to it, it force you to like, hey, you start paying attention more and more. Like that's the biggest thing. I even speak for myself. Like when I start setting like little reminders in here and there, like little like task lists and stuff like that. When I put a date on
Mhm.
that and a time frame on that,
Right.
it's crazy how much more effective everything is as far as every
Right,
action I
because
take.
in your mind, right, in your mind, you're like, oh man, like this got to get done by this time. So I can't just, throw it to the side. I got to do it. And that's another
Hmm.
thing that people don't understand too is that once you do even have that timeline, those task lists for the day, do not let anything deter you, right? Because I have many people that call my phone on a daily basis for advice, but they're getting the same email or the same text message. Look, please schedule a meeting with me because I've already set the things that I set for the day. So there's no way I'm going to divert that unless it's an emergency. And most of the time, if it's my driver, that's the only emergency, or my kids or family, obviously. But when I tell you to set those and stick with them and don't let anyone deter you, don't let anyone deter you. I don't care if it's a business call from Mars. Do not let that deter you from what you set for the day, because let's just say you got 5 things done and you still got another 4 to do, but then someone calls you about something totally off of your list.
Yep.
You stop, you do all of that. What about those other 4 things you got to finish, right? So those are the type of things that I have learned to implement, is not allowing anything to deter me from that list that I set literally 24 hours or 48 hours in advance.
And that's real good that you mentioned that because a lot of times people don't understand. Like it's even like even with this podcast, right? Like people start to see like, oh, you
Mhm.
do know what you're talking about, or you talk to like people that know what's going on and they want to reach out. And you have to
Mhm.
understand, you only got 24 hours in a day, so
Facts.
you're gonna
Facts.
spend if you're an entrepreneur, you probably gonna spend about 4 to 6 sleep, maybe. That's if you're lucky,
Mhm.
and the
Yeah,
rest is
no,
gonna
I
be grinding
literally
and
went to
getting it.
sleep. No, I went to sleep at 5 o'clock this morning. I got right back up about 9:30, and back on the grind just because like my mind doesn't allow me to sleep most of the time. So when I do get sleep, it is, a good thing, obviously, but I feel like once I accomplish different things, then I give myself that 2, 3 days out the month just to do nothing but sleep and get my household together, spend time with my girls, things like that. Whereas those other days, like I'm grinding. Obviously, I spend time with my girls every day, but it's like I have to even schedule things in to make sure I'm spending time with them because of my workload, because how driven I am and motivated to achieve different things. So definitely, like I don't stop. Like my mind don't stop. So I can't.
I, all I would say is
Mhm.
hey, I got a lot of respect for your grind, man. Because
Thank
I don't have no
you.
kids right now. I mean, I'm 27. I ain't got kids yet, and
Right, but that just gives you
I
more motivation, right? For
oh for
you,
sure.
like if I didn't have kids, do you know if I didn't have kids right now, like what I would be
Hey,
doing?
you be on
Like,
1,000 right now.
oh my God, I would be like through the moon. Like literally, I would be through the moon right now. But it's like at the end of the day, like these are what like my kids, like they motivate me.
It's
So
your
even if
why.
I didn't have
Yeah.
kids, like you never know. I may not have even been as motivated. You know what I mean? So I never look at it that way as something that's hindrance. It's a motivation. They motivate me every day to be the best I can be. So my business shows for that as well.
Hey, that's your why. I mean, that's why you
Hmm.
grinding the way you grind. So ain't
Yes.
no shame or nothing in it. Like, but I'm gonna just take a couple steps back real quick, because
Yes.
we got sidetracked. So
No, it's okay.
back on the whole realm of dispatch, right? So
Right.
you work from home. You don't own any
Mhm.
trucks. I would assume like you don't
Yes,
own
I
any.
do.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I
Okay, well,
do.
hold
Yes.
on, because this is good. Because so you do own trucks.
Yes,
So
I
you
do.
own both realms. So you
Yes.
basically just like vertically scale this thing to the max.
Yes, like literally, I started out dispatching. 8 months later, I was able to. I literally went into partnership with someone on two 18 wheelers or semi trucks as well. And then that partnership did not work out, so we separated ways. And then I was able to take those two trucks, continue to run them, but also continue to scale up as far as helping others getting into the business. So 2019, probably like middle of 2019, early June, something like that. That's when I implemented the consulting side of my business, where I help individuals get into the business, whether they want to get their own authority or go up under someone else's. It's called an absentee owner program that I have. Excuse me. So either way, I was able to implement the consulting side as well. So yes, I dispatched, then I bought two trucks, and then I'm starting to assist others in buying and managing their own company, but also dispatching for those as well. And I have three people on my team who help out and assist tremendously when it comes to the dispatching side.
Mhm.
However, I was able to then, in turn, start my Willpower show, which is my studio show that I do on Thursdays to give back and give more information to women and anyone literally just wanting to be an entrepreneur in the business or otherwise. And then just drop the webinar or launch the webinar for dispatch training. So yes, I was able to scale obviously within a 3 year period, but I take my time doing what I do, but when I put my mind to something, I go 150% across the board.
Hey, hold on.
Hmm.
Hey, we gotta get, I'm gonna sound like a little soundboard. I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna get like a round of applause or something. Cause God, Lee, like
Yeah,
that's crazy.
it's
You did this
not
in three
easy.
years, and that's in three
Hmm.
years. Like people don't even like. A lot of people take it like, oh, three. That's a long time. Like no, that's a
Hmm.
short amount of time. You had
Yes.
to you had to learn. It's like it wasn't like you was coming into the game with
Hmm.
some knowledge about this already. You had to go do the
Yeah.
legwork,
No.
and you got this started.
Hmm.
And you, hey, you tough. That's
Yeah.
tough.
I literally, like I said, like the education and what I tell people now, if it was something out there as far as like a good dispatch course, right? Like there's a lot of courses out there, which it was on when I started out, it was a dispatch course out there. I just chose the route I chose because I'm like a self-motivated person, right? But there's a lot of people out there who don't have that self motivation and that need that training. That's why I developed my webinar, because I'm able to do things right in front of you and show you the ropes of how I got into it. Like,
Yep.
it's a lot of people that teach dispatching, but they teach the corporate way of doing things. I teach how I got to the point where I am, right? Obviously, I'm going to teach you the knowledge, the lingo, the trucking mannerisms, those type of things, right? But I'm also going to teach you that at the end of the day, there's things that are going to help you to organize your business so that you don't drain yourself out building how I built.
Okay, okay, I see. So
Mhm.
we kind of just hit on everything. Like, what are the for everybody out there listening? Like, what is like? Can you just kind of break down like startup costs? Because I mean, it doesn't seem. It
Yeah.
seems like it would be relatively easy to enter into
Hmm.
this space.
Hmm.
Once you kind of get that knowledge, can you just kind of break down like a main thing of like startup costs per se?
Right. So just like everyone's been saying, like this $600 that people are about to get, right? Like, obviously, take care of your personal stuff. I do not fault anyone for taking that and paying their rent or paying their bills and things like that. But if you're not one of those people, right, and this $600 is extra to you, that $600 can start a dispatch business, right? Reason being is because not only do you just need a laptop or computer at your home, your internet service of starting your internet service, most people should already have internet right now. So
Hmm.
you're just paying the bill, and you're able to, once you start your business, your LLC, is to write that off, because at the end of the day, once you solidify your location for your business being a home office, all of can be written off. Your electric bill, your mortgage or rent can be stifled down, because at that point you have an office in your home. So, long story short, your computer, obviously, I would recommend another monitor, which you can find on Facebook Marketplace for less than $50. And then also your phone. Whoever you got your phone with, I would recommend the cheapest version because all you're going to be doing is making calls and emails all day long. And then obviously your load board. So your load board is either going to be your 123 load board, which is a free load board that you can start out with, right? Which I
Question.
literally started out with that.
Can you explain for everybody that may not know what is a load board?
Yes. So as a dispatcher, if you don't have the contacts or direct shipper, right? Where I was stating that you have went to the shipper and got this freight on behalf of your owner. If you don't have that, right, and you're just starting out, you're building these relationships with all the brokers, you go to a load board. The load board is where all of the brokers in the United States, if they have went and got a load or loads per se, or a contract with a shipper or manufacturer, they put these loads on a board. So it's a digital board that literally runs down. So if I want to load from, and my truck that I'm dispatching for is here in Atlanta, and I want to load out to Dallas, then I'm going to look on this load board. I'm going to filter it appropriately. I'm going to say, okay, I want to load going from Atlanta to Dallas. I have a dry van, which is a part or a particular category of trailer. That dry van cannot go above 44,000 weight as far as the pounds is concerned. And then where you're trying to go, obviously, is Dallas, right? But I'm in Atlanta, so I'm also going to filter to make sure my truck is not just deadheading or riding without a load too far. So my mindset is to make sure that it's set between, I would say, 50 to 150-mile deadhead. You never want to drive your truck literally without anything on the back of it. So as a dispatcher, you kind of sort of make sure that you're not doing that because it's wasting fuel if he don't have a load on the back of it.
Okay.
Long story short, so that load board allows me to look at, and once I filter it and I press search, it's going to bring up all the loads that are going to run from Atlanta to Dallas when they're picking up, and you set your date or whatnot. If you don't have a specific date, then you just, leave that broad. But literally, it'll pull up thousands. And when I tell you thousands of loads that you can pick from to say, okay, well, I'm going to call this broker. Once you see what the broker's information is, what the rate per mile is, because you've already calculated that before calling this broker to negotiate anything, and what the trend of that lane is, basically stating what is the average that particular lane from Atlanta to Dallas has been, then you in turn call that broker and say, look, I'm seeing, you have a load on the load board. It's running from Atlanta to Dallas. What's your current rate on that load? They're going to tell you what the rate is. If it's less than $2 a mile right this second, don't touch it. Because the trends of the lanes for dry vans per se is over 245 right now. So long story short, negotiate your rate with that particular broker. In turn, we'll send you what we call a rate con from you making that phone call, and be able to then in turn send you that rate con that states what the rate is that you discuss over the phone, where that your driver for that particular truck is going to pick up. They're going to have an address. They're going to have a pickup address, and then your receiver, which is your drop off address. So then they're going to be able to get you to in turn send that information, your pickup and drop locations, over to that particular driver.
Okay. So that's basically just okay. I get it. So it's just a way to streamline everything and make sure that the overhead isn't just like destroyed with fuel and all that.
No. Starting out, literally less than $600. And when I tell you it's less than 600, because number one, you're going to need one of the multiple load boards, right? But if you're a smart person and a smart dispatcher, you will seek out the owners that already have load boards, right? So that you utilize their load boards to run their loads, right? When
Okay.
I first started, my first client already had a load board already. He already was paying monthly for it. So I just utilized his load board and I said, look, I'm gonna run your loads, but can we share basically your load board? And all they're doing is basically sharing that load board. It's not like you're taking their information and blasting it everywhere. But I was able to utilize their load board to run
Okay.
4 or 5 other trucks at the same time. So there's ways around it. So don't go out here just paying for load boards. See if you can gain a client that would not only if and if he doesn't have the load board, go ahead and get the load board under his information, because it's cheaper to get a load board nowadays with a carrier or authority, because they're looking at you as a dispatcher, that you're running multiple carriers, that they're missing out on that multiple account money if they're dealing with you as a dispatcher. So you pay more for a load board in turn. So I would definitely utilize that, and just share the cost with your owner operator. Say, okay, well, I'm paying as an owner operator $150 for it. Okay, I'm a dispatcher. I'm a split the cost with you.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad you hit that because I was actually about to try to figure out exactly how does the dispatcher profit off all this. So basically, it's just kind of it's essentially just break it down like it's a bust down and just like y'all make a split like based off this load.
Mhm.
It'll be a 70,
Right.
30, 50, 50, whatever. Okay,
Exactly. Yes. So whatever the load board cost to run the loan board, then obviously it's $150 per month or whatever the case may be. So you split that with them just to be able to run your business. But as far as your rate, as far as like running the loads or per load, most dispatchers, I started out at 10%. I did not undercut myself. I don't care who was giving you 8, 7, 5%. My value as a dispatcher and what I do for you on the back end is worth that 10% of every load. So you negotiate what you're going to allow with that owner operator in the beginning with your dispatcher carrier agreement that basically states what they're going to pay you in turn for your services. But also, most dispatchers will also do like a weekly fee. So they may just charge them 250 per week, and that's like across the board. It don't matter how many loads you run for them or whatever. They have a base rate or a flat rate. I don't do that because my work does not. It just has never been a weekly rate type of a workflow. And my value and what I bring to that carrier is more than that. So depending on what the percentage is, that's what you're going to negotiate with that driver or
okay.
owner per se.
I'm glad you hit on that because I'm always kind of I was wondering where does the money for you come in? Like, that's pretty. So
Mm-hmm.
okay, so
Yes.
that being said, this is kind of
Mm-hmm.
all with the contingency that you have like drivers, right? So
Right. Right.
how does that? I
Mm-hmm.
know from people I know that do the trucking thing, that's like the
Mm-hmm.
hardest thing for them to find is like drivers. So like, how do you go? Like, is that
Right.
like a challenge for you, or is it relatively easy? Have you figured out like a streamlined way?
So on the dispatcher side, you're not finding drivers. You're finding owners.
Okay,
Right? You're finding owners because you have to do business with the person who owns that company. If they don't have a driver, that truck's not moving anyway. So you can't dispatch anything you don't have a driver
okay,
for, right? So you're basically at the point and when they reach out for your services or when you're supposed to be reaching out for their services is obviously when they're starting that business, and then to keep in contact with them until they do find a driver, or if you know a driver then obviously hand them over, right? But as a dispatcher, recruiting is something that you can add to your repertoire. But when you start out, I would not recommend doing that because that just puts too much on your plate, and too much expectation behind these owner operators because they're all looking for drivers. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're doing your job as a dispatcher first before you start recruiting drivers for anyone. There are plenty owner operators out here, or even owner operators who actually own the truck and drive the truck who need your services, but also
okay.
owners who already have drivers that need those services.
Okay, so essentially for yourself, it works out great for you because what you say you got two trucks, right? So you just essentially you serve as you are the middleman for yourself. So I would assume that's more money in your pocket.
Exactly. You're right.
Okay,
So once you become an owner or authority owner of trucks, then yes, you're pocketing most of it, right? Because not only can you be a dispatcher for your own company, which I don't recommend doing so because it's a lot on your plate, right?
okay,
But I can do that because I have a team to do so. But as starting out as a owner, yes, once you buy that truck, you are all in, right? Like that's insurance, that's payroll, that's everything compliance wise to make sure that you stay on the road. But in turn, as a dispatcher, I was able to learn the game from ground up to be able to do so. And once I bought my trucks, I could run them appropriately.
okay. So I do know that like trucking is that's more of a male dominant industry. So can you kind of, because I do know I do have a lot of women that like tune in and stuff. Can you kind of break down like
Mhm.
the pitfalls of like being like a woman in a male dominant industry? I'm sure you have like your challenges and stuff.
Yes, yes. So when I first started, and what I tell every female who comes into this business, right? Like,
Mhm.
obviously, you're going to have an exterior look, right? That enhances obviously your conversation at times. That's what anything a female that has anything going for herself does, right? But if you cannot have that knowledge behind what you're doing and what you're saying, they're going to look at you like, what the heck is she doing in this business, right? I was able to get the respect that I currently have in this business because I did not use my exterior to get anything, right? Like, I was able to talk to them how they would talk to anyone in the business, female, male, or otherwise, to be able to run my company. I came to them directly. I did not allow the conversation to go personal at any sort or form of fashion, because these guys will try you, because let alone my fee is 10%, and they would try and say, oh well, Racquel, yeah, let me just get it for 8% if I was talking to them on some personal stuff. So look out for your business and your reputation and your morals first and foremost, because that is going to take you a longer way than trying to flirt, I would say, with these truck drivers to get what you want, right? Because they're not going to respect that female. They never have, they never will. They will treat you like these lot lizards out here for sure. But long story short, I want everyone to understand that what we do as women in this business is look out for those, right? And I am now going to be making sure that we advocate for those out here, especially ones who, don't have direction, right? It's a lot of women out here. Even I was talking to a owner operator, a friend of mine as well. He's not a current client of mine anymore. He went out and did his own thing. However, I was talking to him about, just going to these truck stops and like what it is like about these females who don't have that direction, right? That they're out there doing things they're not supposed to be doing, right? That respect level is not there with these truckers, with females like that, right? So my objective, even this year with those type of individuals, is to show them that they don't have to go out there doing those type of things. They can have respect for themselves and turn their knowledge and know-how of speaking and, sales basically into something that can literally catapult them across the nation.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's good because it just show you
Mhm.
got to be more than a pretty face. I mean, like
Right.
you know your stuff, and
Hmm.
that's the ultimate testament to like, hey, I know my stuff, and you're not gonna play around. And at the end of the day, that's what it is.
Hmm.
Business is business,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
a
What
lot.
they
And one
say
thing,
about Raquel, oh, she don't play no games. Like, Raquel is not playing. She not been like, I'm not sugarcoating nothing. I'm not telling you what it should be, what it couldn't be. I'm telling you exactly what it is. If you don't agree with that, then let's have an adult conversation about it. But other than that, you will not disrespect me. You will not disrespect my company, and neither will you talk bad about my name unless I obviously did something crazy, right? But I have been able to keep the reputation of my company the way it is because I continue to have respect for self, but more so for those out there that come behind me.
I mean, that's good though because you knowing your
Hmm.
stuff and you being the way you are with that, and keeping it
Hmm.
strictly about business. You built up that
Right,
reputation where people know they don't even come to you with like wasting your time.
right,
So
exactly.
that's very
That's why,
important to
like,
like take into
book a
consideration.
consultation, or we don't need to be talking. Like, it is what it is. Like, if you can't invest in yourself and book that consultation with me to literally take up time, so even if it was on a personal thing and they're trying to like backdoor some stuff and get around and try to do business with me, oh, you're gonna book a consultation period, to make sure that we're all on the same page business wise.
Okay. So that being said, is that as simple as it is for somebody to do business with you? I mean, how do you vet them? Like they just gotta they book a consultation, you kind of just go from there?
Hmm. Yeah, so on a dispatcher's end, those who just want to get our services, as far as my company services as dispatching, no, they could just send an email, and we'll see from there what we can do via email. If
Okay.
not, I have a whole phone conversation with them. Most times they literally just say, Raquel, can you just book a meeting with me? And I do, because mind you, that's incoming business though, right? When it comes to that. But those who want to be in trucking or want to be in dispatching or need advice or anything that I have to give out information to, mind you, I do a show every Thursday where I'm giving free game, right? Free game on everything that anyone can follow as well at 8 o'clock every Thursday. I'm giving it out completely free. However, if you want to book a consultation or you are stuck in some way, shape, or form in your journey within this business, yes, we book a consultation on the website and make sure that, we're booking through my calendar and doing it the appropriate way.
Okay. So you on a whole nother level, right? So I just want you to kind of break it down. Like, what's like a realistic income for somebody doing this? Because everybody listen, that's like the first. Like, as soon as I put that question on Instagram, so that's the first thing. Like, oh, how much can I make? And I mean, you on
Right.
another level. Like, mind y'all, she has trucks on the road. She's at webinars. She doing like five. She done made like
Yeah,
six, seven
I do a
streams of
lot.
income.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. I do a
like,
lot. But starting out, right, as a dispatcher, making sure that you are doing everything quality, right? Not quantity. So don't get out here trying to get 5 trucks at one time. It don't work that way. You have to work yourself up to that because the workload will come to you. If you're doing good business, those referrals are going to come. I got referrals still coming from factoring companies that I worked with 3 years ago. You know what I mean? Because of my work ethic and how I deal with my clientele. However, first starting out, look for 1 truck, and 1 truck will net you in between $300 and $500 a week if you are booking correctly. Meaning that if you're booking on a 10% scale, then at $5,000 gross for that particular truck for that entire week, you're getting $500 out of that, and that's 1 truck. So that's $2,000 a month on a 4-week month. If not, it's another week, so it's literally $2,500. That's your minimum, right? And I'm not saying that some weeks it won't be 250, some weeks it won't be 3,500. I mean 350 because you're at 3,500. Reason being is because you move that truck, you book the loads, so the rates that you're booking is affecting your pay as well, right? Even if you're at an 8 or 7% scale, you should be pushing that truck as far as you can humanly possibly do so within, like I said, the compliance and hours of service of that driver to be able to gain the most revenue for that truck. Because at the end of the day, the more revenue you gain for that truck is the more revenue in your pocket. So
okay.
I would say at minimum $1,500 per month if you're running just some regular loads, right? And that's just off the cuff. However, if you're doing your job appropriately, that truck should be gaining on a dry van end at minimum 55 to 6 grand. And that's just off cuff because of where we are in COVID times, right? But even when it wasn't in COVID, I was showing my homegirl the other day what my settlements looked like when I first started. I was still running the trucks at 4,500 to 6 grand a week, and that would gain me $450 to $600 per week per truck. So let's just say, right, even running at a lower scale of $200 to $300 per truck, and you had 5 trucks, that's $1,500 per week, right? 6 grand per month if you had 5 trucks under your system. And I would say, like I said, scale up to that. Don't try to run all of them at one time when you first get started, because your customer service and quality of what you're doing is going to dwindle if you try to put too much on your plate beginning.
And understand, she has a team, so that's what she's
Yes,
not.
it's not just me.
She passed them days of just getting it out the
Yeah,
mud, just
it's
solo.
not just me.
So
Yep.
how many trucks I guess do you have like under you, like not even including the 2 that you got personally? Like, how many people do you usually deal with like on a weekly?
Yes. So my personal 2 trucks, and then we also have 5 consulting clients, meaning that I basically walk these people from A to Z to get their trucks in the business. So that's that. But on a dispatching side, one just went over to switch over to owner operator, so they run their own truck as of right now. However, we're at 11 as far as dispatching right now. So I have 2 on my team that runs not only my trucks, but the trucks that come onto our team as well.
So you look at 13. Golly, hey,
Mm-hmm.
y'all can do
Yeah.
it, man. We're not even gonna do it. I don't even want to count our pockets like that. So,
Yeah, no, it's literally 11, 5, 11, 5, and 2. So yeah. So 19. Mm-hmm.
God, hey,
Mm-hmm.
that's
19
different right
total right
there.
now. But meaning that I got to that point, right? Just like you were saying, like I didn't just start out with 19 trucks. Mind you, at one point I was running 10 trucks by myself. So I got to a point where I was like, oh no, like, especially when I bought my trucks, because at that point I switched over from dispatcher to owner, and I had to deal with a lot more on the compliance side of my trucks alone. So that's when I had to scale up and say, oh, I need help, because I'm the type of person that will do everything on my own and keep it pushing, but I need help, right? So at that point, once I switched over to owner, that's when I started even leasing, because right now, and that's what people don't understand, right? Even as a dispatcher, right? And you don't want to go and get your authority and just go buy a truck, you can go lease a truck or finance a truck and put it under someone else's authority and them run your truck for you. So that's what I do now. I don't even run my own trucks as far as dispatching is concerned. We have dispatchers that do that. But also, I run under a lease program under another authority so that I don't have to worry about none of that compliance on the back end. So there's a
Okay.
lot of ways to skin this cat in this game. Stop being greedy and figure out what works for you. Because mind you, when I first got my trucks, yeah, I went out here, I got an authority, I ran it for about 4 or 5 months, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm spending 16 grand on 2 trucks just in insurance in a 4-month period. We got issues, right? So I figured out that running it under someone else, yes, you're going to pay a certain percentage, but it's less headache, it's less stress, it's less everything, because I was able to scale the way I'm scaling, because it's just not me running everything now.
Okay, I'm glad you hit on that, because I mean, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
getting to that money, you might think it's
Yeah.
better to do it yourself and not reach out to somebody
Mm-hmm.
to help out.
Yeah, no. That's why I help people. If you're trying to get into this trucking game and you don't want to do it yourself, or you're an entrepreneur already that, just have some extra funds, literally get with me about the absentee owner program. Like, we run and manage our trucks every single day. And literally to make sure that they are making the revenue, and you don't get a phone call unless it's something wrong. And most of the time, if something's wrong, I already got my owner's credit card on file, and I send him the bill at the end of the week about, blown tires, or your driver had to go
Okay,
get
just
some
like
more
maintenance.
coolant,
Okay.
or whatever. You know what I mean? So my dispatchers have the information on file where we're just able to keep it moving, and that truck doesn't sit just waiting on the owner to answer the phone and pay a bill on something.
Okay. So I normally
So
will pivot into my questions from the culture section, but I was looking
yeah.
at them, and you'd have hit every single thing. I mean, I guess I'm
Look,
I know
I
you
think
mentioned.
you're interviewing an interviewer. So me just talking is most of the time me answering questions in sync. So
Hey,
I'm a broadcaster, podcaster too. So that's probably where that comes from.
that worked perfect, because normally that's
Yeah.
a little chunk. But I just want to hit on, because he mentioned licensing, and you said at
Hmm.
the moment you don't have to worry about getting licensed as a dispatcher, correct?
Right. As a dispatcher, the only thing that you need to have, and that's just on a moral, like, reputation basis, is to make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row as far as your paperwork is concerned, your agreements, as well as your LLC established with your state or wherever you are located.
Okay. And I ain't no selfish individual, so I see you got the
Mhm.
little woman in logistics. You got that
Yes,
running. So hey,
yes.
speak on that. Go ahead, plug. Like, what is that all about?
Yeah, so I started that show, and it's Willpower, which means women in and I just spell it WIL power. So women in logistics power. I started that because, number one, I used to be in broadcasting, like we discussed, and I felt like my passion for broadcasting was dwindling. Right, It wasn't something that I put my all into. However, it's something that moves me, right? Like I'm a broadcaster. I love to talk. I love to interview different people. I love to hear your story. And also give back, right? Giving back the information within the industry, whether it's in trucking or not. Like we've spoke about different just hustles on the side that women can do or even men can do that don't even have a lot, that you have to do. Like literally in an hour, me and my mom sat there on live on Facebook and made $250 just on selling used clothes. So there's a lot out here that you can do to gain revenue, right? But in general, I just want everyone to understand like what we do in trucking and what my show is about giving back, whether it's in trucking or otherwise, right?
Mm.
My show became what it became because I knew that I wanted to get back into broadcasting, whether it made me money or not, right? Like this is just something like I enjoy doing. So to be able to give back and highlight those who are doing great things in my industry and around it as well, was just a passion of mine. So yes, we have that every Thursday at 8 p.m. It was in studio prior to the holiday, and I'm working on getting it back in studio. However, for the last couple of weeks, I've been running it off of Facebook Live, Instagram Live, as well as implementing Clubhouse as well, so that everyone can get the information all at one time.
Okay. All right. That's
Hmm.
dope. I'll definitely put everybody on that. I know that, especially women,
Yes.
because you don't see too many like black people out here trying to help anybody out, especially.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm always willing.
oh yeah, for sure. That's dope though. And just
Hmm.
real quick, I want to mention though, you see how you
Hmm.
mentioned broadcasting is your passion, but you
Hmm.
found your gift. I guess like even with customer service and everything, like you found the gift of being able to be
Hmm.
good in trucking. A lot of times I tell people like sometimes it's not always about what you're passionate about. You find something that
Hmm.
you're just good at naturally, like
Hmm.
learning, and you're just good at it, and you hone in on that. And what
Right.
usually ends up happening 9 times out of 10 from every person I know that's kind of just taking like big steps for doing their own thing, they end up
Hmm.
full circling around to what they're passionate about in some fashion or form. And that's what you're doing
Right.
with your women in logistics. So I just want to like
Yes.
mention that for people because a lot of people think like, oh, I got to do what I'm passionate about. Like, no, you don't have to
Hmm.
do that at first. Like it could full circle to
Hmm.
that later on down the road. So I just want to mention that.
Right.
But I'm gonna
Yeah,
pivot to
definitely.
I'm gonna
Even
pivot.
with my call center stuff, that's where my trucking came into play. So if it wasn't me working all this time to be able to do policies, procedures, and everything, I would have never been able to do what I do anyway. So yeah, I totally agree.
All right, I'm gonna pivot to my last section. I do like a little lightning round.
Mhm.
It never ends up being a lightning round, but I still call it the lightning round.
It's
So
okay.
it's just 5 quick questions. So
Hmm.
question number one, just a black standout on your timeline. It could be Facebook, Instagram. Most people do Instagram, Twitter. It don't matter.
Hmm.
So if you could just provide one or one, two, it don't matter how many. Just anybody that stands out on your timeline that's black.
I literally follow, I would say her name is Danielle. I forgot her last name if I'm not mistaken. But she's a big person when it comes to social media influencing, to gain revenue for her ebooks and digital realm. So I just want to shout out Danielle as well. But in general, most of the people that I follow are in trucking. Lady Logistics has been a wealth of knowledge when it comes to what we do, and just being a woman in the business. She's a broker in the business and teaches brokering. So if anyone wants to get into brokering, definitely hit her up about her portal as well. But in general, I think more so than anything, I follow those who are motivating. As far as, like I said, Lady Logistics, Danielle, I follow her on a business aspect. Who else? I would say the comedian girl, B Simone. And that's just because, and everybody looks at her like, oh, well, she just got out of that scandal or whatever the case may be. But you don't understand what this woman went through to get to where she's at right now. Like she's a multi business owner at this point, and she gained that by being herself and being authentic. So when something happens, such as what she went through on a question of authenticity, you can't blame everything on that person. She is just getting to the point where she can control those type of things every single day. So I look after or look behind her for her motivation, how she came to Atlanta and literally had nothing, sleeping on her people's couch and things like that. I follow people with a story because it motivates me to be better than what I was yesterday.
Okay. So the next question, one book recommendation. It could be related to anything.
I would say Think and Grow Rich. That
Oh,
one,
that's a good one.
I have literally been able to focus and hone in on that book more so than anything now. I would also say The Secret. The Secret to me is something that everyone needs to read. I have been reading that book probably twice a year since I got that book a while ago. And reason being is because it brings you back to speaking things into existence and not speaking so negative on everything, right? When you wake up in the morning, don't say, "Oh, it's Monday. I hate Mondays," etc., etc. Like, no, today's going to be a great day. I'm going to do X, Y, Z. I'm going to be the best person I can today. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to do everything I set to do on my list today, right? Even when you come across something that has a negative light, then flip it and try to make it as positive as possible. And life will continue and start to be a little bit easier. I used to be that person that every time I talk to someone and they ask me how my day was, I would tell them all the negative stuff, right? And forget the fact that, dang, like I woke up this morning, I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing okay, my business is still running, etc., etc. And instead of doing that, I would always say, "Oh, I'm tired, I'm doing so much, and I don't have time for myself," and da da da. Whereas God just wants you to sustain what He's giving you, obviously, have a motivation and faith behind what you stand for, but also take that next step to move, right? Like faith without works is nothing. So I take that approach with everything, but that secret book has taught me just to stay positive with everything. Speaking can also just be a hindrance because you're putting things out there that you don't want to necessarily do so.
Okay. So next
Mhm.
question. I mean, oftentimes people, I tend to talk to a lot of people that are very successful, but people don't realize what comes with that is, we fail along that journey. So can you just
Mhm.
kind of talk about what failure taught you the most?
I think failure taught me to continue to go, right? I feel like every time that I did fail, it was something that was missing or some type of thing that was not meant for my purpose, right? When you fail, it's not saying that you weren't good at what you were doing, right? It's saying that that was not for you. That's not the path that God has for you. Mind you, even with my broadcasting before, right? That show didn't do worth of nothing, right? I didn't get many sponsors. I didn't get many hits on my YouTube shows or anything of that nature, right? But in turn, I kept going. I kept doing what I was meant to do in this world, whether it was broadcasting or not. But I did fail in that manner, right? I even had a call center. I failed at that too. It was a lot of things that got me to this point, and failure, without failure of it showing me what my next step is and what I needed to improve on, I wouldn't be here right now.
Next question is, what is one thing you
Mhm.
think the Black community can improve on?
Um, Togetherness, to be honest, and not being so competitive. There's a lot of people, even within my industry, right? There's a lot of people doing what I do, right? But to see so many people supporting it is what matters to me. I feel like there is always going to be competition, right? But don't make it that within your own circle, within your own people. Like, trucking is a $800 billion business. Why not me teach another 100, 200, 300 people to do what I'm doing? That's only 300 trucks at minimum, right? And literally 1,500 trucks. Do you know how many trucks are on the road right now? 3.5 million trucks. You see what I'm saying? So it's not about the competition. Like, stop trying to compete with people and be of value. Be of value to those who you want to be in your circle, to those who you want to get into their circle. Be of value and stop trying to compete because it's too much out here for us to do that. It's so many females that have come to me, Racquel, just teach me, teach me, teach me. And I'm like, yes, get with the course and I got you. I have no reason to take away from what you're trying to do for your family. And neither should anyone look at me as a competition, because that's not what it is. I'm out here trying to do the same thing. So I feel that even if we just stop competing and start learning from one another, it would definitely be a better place.
That's a fact. This is my
Mm-hmm.
last question. What's one piece of
Yeah.
advice you would give somebody? It could be about anything.
I would say to find what your purpose is, to be honest with you. I feel like for a long time, I didn't know what that was. I was just chasing the dollar to provide. But once you find your purpose in what you do, things become a little easier. Things become like you get up with a reason, right? Like I get up every day with a reason to do what I do because I have clients that, number one, depend on me, but also those who are looking at me for advice, for motivation, for just a gear. Like I've had so many people even write on my post, like, Racquel, what you're doing is just motivating me in their own field. It ain't even got nothing to do with trucking. They just see a woman with 2 kids who's out here just grinding and actually trying to make something of herself rather than just waiting on it to be handed to me. My purpose in doing what I'm doing, especially this year, because last year was a turnaround to be able to find that purpose, right? Like I was always doing everything because I needed to pay bills and I needed to pay bills. But once I started waking up with, okay, if I do this and continue to do this for others, God will continue to bless me. It's been a lot of people. Even a couple of weeks ago, I was able to pour into someone's business and do business with them. They ended up stealing about $1,800 from me, right? But for me to be able to say, if I go after them, right, and don't walk in my purpose of doing business with them was initially to give back to their business, right? To pour into their business, to pour into their family. But when someone does you wrong, you still have to stay in that purpose and know that whatever you were doing is going to come back tenfold for you on a positive light. You can't worry about what other people do with what you give them, right? Because there's a lot of people that I even gave the courses to. Some of them will put 10 toes down and go with this course because it was something that was given to them to elevate their life. But others will not utilize that. They'll take advantage of it. But if you know your purpose in life and what you're doing is always going to be on a positive light, things become easier. The reason why you get up every day will become more enlightening than anything.
I'm glad you mentioned on both ends of that too. That's dope.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely just
Yeah.
want to thank you because, like I
You're
say,
welcome.
I say this to everybody. Like you don't know me from nothing. I just reached out, just say
Yeah.
the worst thing that I always tell you, worst thing can happen. Somebody say no, but
Yeah.
I just want to say I appreciate
Mm-hmm.
you for coming on this
Yes.
platform. You done shared a whole bunch of free game, and
Yes.
I mean a whole. But if you can't start, you can almost start a whole dispatcher business off of this one interview. You listen in,
Right. Right.
so
Exactly. Exactly. But
I just
yeah,
want to thank you. Though I'm honored to
you're
have you
welcome.
on. Appreciate everything that you did. Hey, just
Mm-hmm.
keep doing what you're doing because I follow everybody. Bring on. I'm gonna keep close eyes on them, man. Because when I hit like episode 100, I'm flying out to y'all by then.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I just
Well,
want to say
yeah,
I appreciate
definitely.
everything.
Not a problem. Not a problem. And just anybody, if you want to get into dispatching, definitely hit the link in my bio. We are shutting sales down or seats down very, very soon because it's getting packed. But literally by the 14th of January, if we have not filled everything, then that's the ultimate day that we're shutting everything down because the webinar is on the 16th. So if you want to get into dispatching or you have anything, any questions about trucking or otherwise, definitely hit the link in my bio. Pick which one is associated with what you got going on, and we're always here to assist.
Now, do me one quick favor though.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to
Yes.
plug every. You got a whole bunch going on, so I just need you to plug everything that you got going. Instagram, how to get a
Yes.
hold of you, where they can find you. I need you to
Mm-hmm.
just plug yourself right now.
Yes, definitely. So anyone can find my main page is Racquel Battle. So RACQUEL Battle, B as in boy, ATTLE. So at Racquel Battle. And all of my links to Eurasian Logistics, which is a trucking company, as well as Willpower, the show, is in that bio. You also can find my link tree, which will give you information. Once you click on it, will give you information in reference to the dispatch training or webinar, also be able to watch any of the past Willpower shows. And then also, if you're trying to get a consultation or book a consultation for trucking or just need advice moving forward, then yes, you could book a consultation there as well. So any of that, definitely the main page is Raquel Battle, and then subsidiaries or any information thereof is in that bio.
Okay, and y'all keep it
Mhm.
professional. Don't go in there trying to holler at them, man.
Yeah,
Hey,
no, no, no.
don't
We keep it
don't put nothing
mostly
bad on my
professional
name.
in there for sure.
No, as I said,
Yeah, but
I
thank you,
don't.
thank you, thank you for sure. I definitely appreciate it. You have answered, or asked me a bunch of questions that I haven't been asked in a while. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. But once again, I
Hmm.
appreciate everybody for tuning in. Well, for the culture, we have Miss Raquel Battle. Once again, we thank you. And this is Ollie
Hmm.
Brady signing out.
Thank you.